Good evening, everyone. It is 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and welcome to News and Talk with Cassandra. That's me, if you don't know. We got a few things to talk about today, and I just want to make sure I'm focused in the right direction, that you can actually see me and all that kind of stuff really well. And thanks for showing up for the show. I appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, you can put it over in chat somewhere or comment on whatever platform you're looking at watching this on. But anyway, I want to talk about several topics this evening. One of them is Ukraine. The other one is tariffs. And then obviously I'm going to talk about campus protests, Trump and campus protests, his statement he made this morning. And then I'm going to cover more about one of the most scapegoated groups of people in the country right now. Scapegoated and villainized groups of people in the country. There's a few. All right. So first thing is about Ukraine. One thing that happened all last week was when Zelensky was in the White House, and there was Rubio there, Vance was there, Trump was there, and they got into a shouting match at the end. Now, and then kicked Zelensky out of the White House. Well, anyone who knows anything about the history of the world, for instance, and particularly the history of Eastern Europe and Europe or anything like that, and Russia and the Soviet Union and all that kind of stuff that was there before, we all know that Putin is the aggressor. Every single person knows that Putin is the problem here, folks. Regardless of what you might think about Zelensky or anything like that, Putin is the aggressor. He has one goal in mind. He wants to reestablish those satellite states that the former Soviet Union had around Russia, okay? He wants that level of protection. Now, there are some in the country here who say, oh, sure, let him have it. Let him have it. And obviously, I think President Trump is on one of those people. And he also wants to be friends with another major leader in the world. So he wants to be able to do that. And he wants to be able to take that and say, hey, look, you can have whatever territory you want over there in Eastern Europe, but I'm going to tell you, we want to be able to do the same thing here in the U.S. He wants Putin to be the person who says, oh, let Trump get whatever he wants over there. Whatever he wants, take it. Get it. Canada, Mexico, Greenland, whatever, Panama Canal, any of those things. Because if he allows Putin to do what he wants to do, then he expects Putin to reciprocate and allow Trump to do what he wants to do. Okay? That's just the way Trump operates. Now, obviously, this deal with the minerals there and the rare earths that are in Ukraine and in abundance, and the deal that we're trying to strike up with Ukraine on that, I understand what Trump is trying to do. Trump is trying to give, trying to incentivize our participation in Ukraine. He's trying to give it an economic basis, an economic reason for happening and for doing it. Okay, and that's understandable. I suppose it's narrow-minded as hell. But it's understandable from his perspective. If you look at it, he wants to be able to say, look, to talk to America. If he's talking to America after a deal is struck with Ukraine, and he says, look, we have a vested interest in protecting our investments in Ukraine, particularly the possibility of receiving a lot of money for rare earths that are sold out of Ukraine. So he wants to make sure that, he has a reason for us to be involved there. He doesn't think there is a reason. And that's the catch. He does not think there is a reason justifiable beyond just strictly economics. You have to look at Trump through that lens. He only sees the economics of the situation. He does not care about the history. He does not care about what might happen or what could happen and what has happened there over all these centuries, basically. So he's not interested in that. He wants to have an economic incentive to stay there, to be there, to participate in this. Now, it's in Ukraine's best interest to do that, obviously, because they need us to have an investment in that area, and they need to see that we have a vested interest in being there. And so that's where I'm coming at it from in this sense, is that that's a very narrow-minded, myopic way of looking at it. It truly is, but it's not the only way. Obviously, we need to be there regardless of whether or not there's an economic incentive to engage with us in Ukraine or not. because historically that is one of the most dangerous places in the world. The Balkans, that whole area over in there, that is one of the most dangerous places in the world. That's where wars have started and lives have been lost ad infinitum for centuries. Ask Napoleon. Ask anyone before that. I mean, those wars have been fought right there for centuries, folks. And it is in our best interest to make sure those wars don't start up again unless you're motivated to build up your military industrial complex in your country. Back to the economic side of things. So that's basically what I'm seeing from Trump. Trump has one focus: money, okay? Money and getting putting his hands on all the resources he could possibly get his hands on, but he's also an expansionist. So you have to kind of look at it from multiple levels here. He wants Putin to be able, I'm going to reiterate and kind of go through this again. He wants Putin to be able to get what he wants in part of Ukraine, not all of it, just a part of it, and that really just says screw Ukraine, screw all the lives that they have put into protecting their own territory, their own territorial integrity, their own sovereignty. They've poured hundreds of thousands of people into the war and lost lives as a result of it. So has Russia. So what is it about that? Well, they have a right to protect their own territory. That's correct. And we have the responsibility to make sure those territorial boundaries are protected, whether it's Russian territory or whether it is Ukrainian territory. All those things are at play here, folks, all of it. And it's not a one size fits all. It's not a single type of deal trying to get us to that place where we can help with Ukraine. No, it's not that at all. What happens is we have a responsibility not just to ourselves, but to the world in which we live. You might not like hearing that. People might not want to know, might not want to hear that at all. But we are not an isolated country on this planet, folks. We are part of a larger world. We only represent 4.5% of the global population. 4.5% of the global population. Yes, economically, we're number one. And yes, economically, China's number two. And Europe as a whole would be number three probably, or India or Europe, if you put them all together. But there's so much at stake here, and it's only going to get worse if we don't have a say in what's going on there. Yeah, we can isolate ourselves all you want, but I'm going to tell you something. This little blue dot in the space is really tiny, really tiny. So anyway, my point being, we have to stand with Ukraine. They have done so much already. They're protecting our interests. They're soldiers out on the front line who are losing their lives out there trying to protect their territory. We should be the ones thanking them for being out there trying to protect Europe, all of us, from Russian aggression. You don't think Russia's aggressive? Then you don't know the first thing about what it meant to be a KGB officer in the old Soviet Union. That's what Putin was. Vlad Putin, KGB agent. Worked his way up through the ranks, and he has that idealism that he wants to restore that kind of territory again with those satellite states protecting. He won't stop with Ukraine. If you allow him to take Ukraine or part of it, or you back away and he takes all of it, then he's going to go right on in for the other little states around through there, the other countries in that area. He'd love to have Poland back, but Poland's a bigger fight than Ukraine. Excuse me. Particularly since Poland is in NATO. And we do have forces there in Poland. Yes, we do. We have forces there. We have material and personnel there in Poland. Yeah, we've got that. And the other NATO states, yeah, they're there. And we're actually helping out, along Norway right now with Norway. They're doing some training exercises, military exercises. So we know that stuff's going on, and the problem that Russia has is a psychological one. It really is. They always believe that the rest of the world is out to get them. That's always been the case. And they've got every reason to believe it too, because the history of their country comes from constant battle and war. Okay? Napoleon tried to conquer them. They lost. Germany tried to get them. Germany lost. They see themselves as being in a constant state of warfare. It's psychological. It really is. That's where they are, always. And then Ukraine, they have a right to protect themselves too. And yeah, they were part of Russia at one point in time, but prior to that, they weren't. That's just the way it is, okay? So I don't know what time period you want to lock onto and call it, hey, this is the way it works or not. And that's where we cut it off at. No, that sounds just like what was going on in Israel with Hamas. I mean, and Hamas over there, Hamas and the Palestinians want their state and all that kind of thing, saying that's the way it was prior to Israel. No. Depends on when you cut the time period off, okay? If you only just do it for the past, since 1947, well, that's a consideration. But, Israeli people have been over there for thousands of years, literally 3,000 years in different forms, shapes, or versions. So that's what I wanted to talk about on Ukraine is that, one, we do have to stand up and defend Ukraine and be there for them. And that's fine if we want to get a deal that, kind of protects our investment in that. That should not be the only focus, though, because Ukraine is so important. What's going on in Ukraine is much bigger than just the minerals that are there, much bigger than the crops that are there. It's much bigger than all of that because of what motivates Russia, okay? So, yeah, there's a lot going on. The next topic I want to talk about were these tariffs. And we all know already today that Trump has initiated 25% tariffs on goods from Mexico and Canada and an additional 10% on China. And we know that is going to receive pushback. They're going to do, I think Canada announced today that they're going to impose additional tariffs on products that come from the U.S. to their country, okay? And I think Mexico is looking at doing it this coming Sunday. And China obviously is too. So this tariff war, look, it's going to cause economic hardship for a lot of people. I understand the motivation for tariffs. The motivation for tariffs is to protect the industry and the services within a country. That's what Hamilton wanted them for. Actually, he proposed tariffs and all that on the young nation. But, he did have a caveat to that, though, when Alexander Hamilton started talking about tariffs. The caveat was that if you're the biggest player in the world, you shouldn't have to have tariffs imposed. You shouldn't have to impose tariffs on everything coming in to protect your industries. But when you're small and insignificant, or not insignificant, I should say, but when you're a small political body or a small state or whatever, then it behooves you to have tariffs on things coming in to protect your industries. But for the large economic powers in the world, to do it is just greed, period. Greed. And yeah, Trump is saying that it is all about protecting our border, securing our border, and keeping fentanyl out and all that. All well and good. But Canada represents like, what, 1% of the fentanyl trade into the country? Jeez, come on, people. But anyway, no, it's not about that. And it's not about fentanyl. It's not about even the border security. He wants to create such a situation between the U.S., Mexico, Canada, that they come to some kind of other agreement that basically incorporates them in some level or another into a larger North American Union of states, if you will. He's actually looking at it in that perspective. I don't have a problem with that either. But there are ways to get there without having to piss off everybody along the way, okay? He wants to increase the size without having to make any changes within our own systems, but that's not going to happen ever. Well, at least not in my lifetime. All right, the next thing was this campus protests, okay? This morning early, let me see if I can pull up the little thing here on my screen. What do I do with it over here? Okay. So I'm going to share a screen here just a second. I'm going to read this one thing that came from Trump this morning. About, I think it was 7:30 this morning. Anyway, give me 1 second. All right. So I'm sharing the screen right now with you, and you're looking at a post from Truth Social that Trump put out this morning at 7:30 a.m., March 4th, 2025. This is craziness, folks. This is craziness. I agree there are some horrible things going on campuses. I agree that there are some horrible things being said and done there, and that certain groups have been disenfranchised at times. But the way to fix the problem is not this. He says, let me read it to you. This is from Donald Trump, okay? The real Donald Trump. All federal funding will stop for any college, school, or university that allows illegal protest. One is he doesn't define what an illegal protest is. That leaves it wide open for anything. Everything. Agitators will be imprisoned or permanently sent back to the country from which they came. American students will be permanently expelled or, depending on the crime, arrested. Then in bold letters, no masks. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So this is directly from Truth Social, okay? That was this morning at 7:30. One is we've had these kind of campus protests and agitation since campuses came into existence, okay? University systems came into existence. They've been there always. They've been there. That's just part of the atmosphere because people want to go there and, you know, they learn new ways of thinking. They learn about new ideas out there, and then they side with one or the other. It's just a process of learning for the people involved in that. In the 30s, there were people protesting on college campuses, the military going on campuses to recruit people. There were protests, there were anti-Semitic protests in the 30s as well on college campuses, folks. But anti-Semitism has been going on for 3,000 years. So anyway, you can't take away that First Amendment right, okay? You cannot take that away. That freedom of expression, freedom of thought, freedom of association is protected. But Trump doesn't care. He's throwing all this stuff out there going, this has got to stick. I can get something. I can amass more power for the executive branch. And that's what he's trying to do, is just build up more authority for the executive branch of the U.S. government. Now let me go back to where I can see all of you fine folks. All right, so really that's what this is all about, is he's trying everything he can to amass power. And he's doing it by appealing to certain groups of people who see things as always being bad or evil or illegal, everything, whatever, making stuff up along the way. Obviously it's unconstitutional, but you know, Constitution really is a piece of paper. Really is just a piece of paper. It can be changed anytime somebody wants to, or challenged anytime anybody wants to. And if the other people who are in opposition to it don't have the power or the resources to stop it, there's not much you can do about it, folks. That's the way it's always been. If there's a law out there that one administration wants to enforce and the other one decides not to, well, you know, that's the way it works. It works that way at the local level, right here in the hills of Eastern Kentucky. If they decide one law is one they like, then they can follow it. And you would think they are supposed to enforce all the laws. True, but in practice, that's not true. At your local level, they can do whatever they want. They can do it at the state level. All they have to do is go in and change something. And usually what happens is, if they do write a law one year, they'll go in and change it the next year or next cycle. I mean, if it's not as strong as they want it to be the first time around, they'll take it as a win and move on, and then they'll go in and, you know, tweak it a year or 2 years down the road and make it even worse. That's especially true when it comes to transgender people in the country. They're being scapegoated. If you didn't read the article out there that I posted in the newsletter I sent out earlier today, it's from the Bulwark. And Mark Solomon's the one who actually wrote the article, and it talks about the scapegoating of transgender people in the country, and that we've got to find a way to put an end to that, because really all they're doing is trying to divide the country even further. So they're imposing their ideology on all of us, and they claim that our ideology is the one that they don't want. Well, here's the thing. Yes, a little over half of the electorate voted for Trump. And yeah, they're in power, and yes, they can pretty much do what they want with that. But we've got to be ready to push back on it. We've got to stop this, because you're hurting real people, real Americans out here. And real Americans are having to deal with the consequences of what's going on in the Trump White House, particularly transgender Americans. You've got libs of TikTok, and you've got all these different people and organizations out there over on the right who scream every time a trans person does something, let me just say it bluntly, stupid, then the right side of the political spectrum takes it and weaponizes that one little story, one little thing will be taken and weaponized across, it just riles up the right side. You don't hear about these little things over on the left very often or very much, because, it's just, everybody has problems. Every group has an issue, but they're going to take, on the right, they're going to take every little thing that goes wrong and turn it into a massive mountain. And they're basically riling up a bunch of people who have ingrained animosity toward trans people, particularly. Now, it won't stop with trans people. We all know that. We all know that this is just one of the legs that they want to get. They want the entire LGBTQ plus community just shoved under the floorboards in the back of the closet, and then the building set on fire. That's what they're trying to do, okay? And some of those people over on the right-hand side of things, they are definitely trying to agitate up violence against us. So I want you to be safe. If you're a trans person in this country, be safe, be careful, keep your head on the swivel. But also, I don't want any martyrs. I don't want any martyrs out there. And take care of yourself, take care of your family, and help things at the local level. Try your best to get, ingratiated into local activities, where you are, where you work, play, those things. Try to get ingratiated into those little areas so that people begin to see us as just another human being, just like them. Really? That's really all we're asking for. Just treat us with some respect and dignity. But at the same time, folks, that goes both ways. You cannot, and I know that cannot is a hard word to hear, but you can't go around and demanding your way and expect somebody not to push back on it. That's a matter of free speech again, back to the First Amendment. You can't expect everyone to believe the same as you, or have the same ideological background as you, or demand your way on them, force it on them. It's only going to backfire, particularly when the size of your group is, let's say 1.5 million out of 350 million, about 0.6% of the population. That's like the US, which represents 4.5% of the global population, trying to demand that the rest of the world follow what we want, right? Oh, yeah. Sorry. Same thing, same analogy. Anyway, so I'm not going to harp on that very much, because we've got to start cleaning our own house. We've got to start taking care of ourselves and our families and our friends and allies, and we've got to stand up there for them, okay? Where you can, safely, aware, but also know that in this community, we're all strong. We've been through more than most people can ever imagine. And usually they don't even take the time to appreciate the fact that we've been through hell and high water to be who we are. That has taken a lot out of our lives. And then on the other side of that, we've become stronger, more resilient, more capable. In every way, we are stronger and better than we were before. Because now we don't have to worry about all of that. We can focus on, just being a good person. Well, unless you got somebody like the Trump administration trying to wipe you off the face of the earth, which is in fact what they're doing. If you don't know that, you haven't been paying attention either. But that's what they're trying to do. So with that, I want to just say, I hope you have a great evening. I'm going to try to do this every evening. No guarantees just yet. I'm trying to wind myself up for all of this again. But thanks for watching News and Talk at 6 with Cassandra. And with that, let me see, there's a chat button over here. Somebody put a comment over here. Oh, Angela. Yeah. Okay. Today they found out that, oh, they went too far with their hate. Let me just show this. This is my good friend, Angela Brightfeather. I want to put this down there. Today they found out that they went too far with their hate. And show this one. And last night the Senate vote failed to outlaw trans girls in sports. Yeah, well, the Democrats definitely decided to protect them. But there's a whole lot to that too, Angela. There's a lot of stuff out there that needs to be changed. And how we deal with things. It's true that the science supports our position. The science supports it, but they don't care about the science. This is an ideological thing to them. And they will do everything in their power to shove trans people, trans veterans, whomever, under the floorboards in the back of that closet and burn the place down. And let me just show what Elizabeth Hunt put up here. They'll keep trying. Yes, they will. They're going to keep trying. And it's going to take a lot, Elizabeth. Thank you for replying. Thank you for watching. And with that, I don't know how long I've been on here right at the moment. Oh, 26 minutes. Okay. I don't want to bore everybody to death, but I'm going to try to talk news and different things like that in these shows and not just be single-mindedly focused on what trans issues are. We've got to show that we're part of these communities and that we are looking and watching and paying attention to them, regardless of the topic. We're not monolithic in any particular way. All right, with that, call it evening, and you all have a great evening, okay?